A federal judge issued a temporary restraining order on the Trump administration's ban on Harvard's ability to enroll international students. Now, that ban would impact nearly a quarter of the student body at Harvard. The administration says it's because of Harvard's handling of anti-Semitism on campus and that enrolling international students is a privilege, not a right. Harvard calls it, quote, clear retaliation for refusing to bow to the White House demands. I want to turn to CNN senior legal analyst Ellie Honig, who is going to explain in English what exactly this means. First of all, what we just heard from the judge, and broadly, what the actual case you think both the administration and Harvard have here.
Yeah, so Dana, this ruling just came out minutes ago. It is a big win for Harvard, temporary, but very significant. What this says is the court is blocking the Trump administration from blocking Harvard from bringing in international students. In other words, as of this moment, it's back to the status quo. Harvard may continue to bring in international students. Now, the way this case came about is the Trump administration sent a letter about a month ago in April to Harvard saying essentially, we want the following information on every one of your 7,000 international students. We want disciplinary records. We want records of any obstructive behavior by any of them, any dangerous behavior by any of them. Harvard tried to comply to the extent they could. Some of those terms are very general, but Harvard sent back documents to the Trump administration. The Trump administration said, nope, we're not satisfied, and therefore you can no longer accept these students. Now, the court today said, I'm putting that on hold. The judge said, I'm putting that on hold because to block these international students would cause irreparable harm both to the students, some of whom are currently enrolled at Harvard. Suddenly their status was in question. Can they go back? Can they attend the summer semester? And to Harvard itself, which, as you said, about a quarter of its entire student body are these international students. So for the moment, Harvard is free to continue admitting these students, but the larger issue still has to play out in the courts.
And Ellie, what legal basis does the Trump administration have for its actions here?
So it's not exactly clear to me. It seems like the Trump administration's legal position here is we're the executive branch. We control these student visa programs, F1 and J1 student visa programs. And if we want to revoke them, we can revoke them. And by the way, we're doing this all to prevent anti-Semitism on campus. However, Harvard's response to that in their brief that they put in yesterday is, first of all, it violates our First Amendment rights. It's not up to the government, the federal government, to micromanage speech and ideology on campus. And then Harvard's second argument is, even if the administration had the right to do this, they have to comply with something called the Administrative Procedures Act, basically saying they have to go through a process. We're entitled to a hearing. We're entitled to an appeal, and none of that has been done yet. And I think that's part of the reason we saw today's ruling as well. It seems to me on the face of it, Harvard has a much stronger legal argument.
Joining us now is Leo Gurdian, a Swedish student currently enrolled at Harvard. Leo, thank you very much for joining us. Are you in the United States right now, or are you back in Sweden?
I am on campus. I am graduating next week, so I'm still here for commencement, even though most people are gone.
So you're going to be graduating in a week. Is this going to apply to you? Are you trying to go to graduate school at Harvard? What's going to happen with your graduation process and your current admission?
Yeah. No, hopefully I will be able to stand with my diploma in a week. Yeah, I hope that my family will be able to cross the border and come in. They haven't been able to visit me so far. So I really hope that everything goes as to plan next week.
Why did you decide to go to Harvard?
Because America offered something that I could not find back in Sweden. A place like Harvard, which has been truly the best 4 years of my life. The type of people that you meet here, the professors that you meet, the community and the liberal arts education. It is really unique to America. And that was the reason that I came here, and that is also what is being attacked by now by the President of the United States, and that is why I've decided to speak up, because I am protecting the values that were the reasons that I came here.
A lot of students come to Harvard to get a first-class education, but also to then stay and contribute to the American economy and the American brain, if you will. You're studying economics and government. What were you hoping to do? What are you hoping to do after you graduate?
Yeah, no. First of all, I think you're totally correct. In every classroom, in every lab, at every research center, there are international students and domestic students together, hand in hand, doing revolutionary stuff in this country, and they might not be able to do that starting from next semester because of all the uncertainty that the Trump administration is creating, or if their decision holds up in court. Personally, I hope long term to go back to Europe and hopefully do something in public service and in politics. I think, especially these couple of weeks, have taught me that I can have a voice if I take it. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of what is happening in America comes to Europe with about a 5 to 10 year delay. So we might have to take a similar fight in a couple of years.
We're an early indicator. Do you feel comfortable, have you felt comfortable speaking your mind, having free speech here in America over the past few months?
Definitely not, to be honest. I have been scared many times, and I decided about 6 weeks ago to write an op-ed in the student newspaper, Harvard Crimson, after I was talking to so many other international friends who didn't want to post anything on social media, didn't want to show up at a protest.
Joining me now is New York Times investigative reporter and MSNBC national security contributor Michael Schmidt and former Brooklyn prosecutor, civil rights attorney, and MSNBC legal analyst Charles Coleman. So, Charles, we knew that this was going to just be a first step when Harvard filed. Now a judge has gotten involved. Where's this going?
Well, Chris, right now, this is an injunction which is basically going to stop Harvard is going to allow Harvard to continue to have international students, and it's going to stop the federal government from its ban. What I suspect is going to happen is that ultimately the judge is going to look at pretty much how much information has been requested of Harvard, how compliant have they been, and does the government have the authority to make the sweeping request that it has in terms of getting as much information on these students as it has asked for. Now, the government, on the other hand, is going to frame this as a matter of national security, which you already talked about, and basically say we need this information in order to determine whether any of these people pose a threat not only to the Jewish students on this campus, but overall to national security as a whole, such that they should not be here. So ultimately, when we have this hearing in a few weeks, that's what's going to be assessed by the judge, and they're going to ultimately weigh the interest of the university against the interest of, as the government will frame it, national security. What I think is going to happen here is that the judge is going to ultimately decide how much information the government can actually ask for, and then set a timeline that is reasonable for the university to produce it. And so long as that takes place, the judge is not going to allow this to move forward.
What is it that Donald Trump is trying to do here? Do we know?
I'm not sure. And I think that the most important thing that's going on here, and we've written about this, and I've talked about it, and folks have talked about it, Harvard's officials know they are in an extremely difficult spot because they find themselves fighting these multi-front wars with the administration. And there's this notion that if Harvard goes to court, they were going to get their money back, and that they would be okay. But they really need that research money for years to come. And if, let's say they get it back this year, they have to go through the Trump administration and Congress to get it in the years that follow. And this, what happened yesterday, is yet another example of the problems that they faced because they're persona non grata with the administration. But at the same time, what is Harvard supposed to do? Are they supposed to head back to the table and negotiate with Donald Trump? As we've seen with the law firms that try to negotiate with Donald Trump, there's Donald Trump's understanding of a deal, and then there's the other party's understanding of a deal. So if you're Harvard, you have massive problems, and problems in ways that are bigger than the law firms. When the law firms got hit with the executive orders, they went to court. Judges gave them restraining orders similar to what we saw today. But the federal government can't stop, knock out a quarter of the lawyers at the firm because they're here on visas. The federal government can't take away half of the firm's money. That's where Harvard finds itself, and they find itself in a really, really tough spot. Then
was what I was just talking to Christine Romans about, which is that by one count, 41% of foreign students stay in the United States after they graduate. More apparently would like to. A lot of them are PhD grads, medical school graduates. The Trump administration thinks it's punishing Harvard, But is it really punishing the economy? Is it punishing businesses who already say that they need highly trained individuals, highly educated individuals, and they can't necessarily find them?
If you talk to Harvard folks, what they say is that what is going on here cuts to the heart of American academia, what academia means, what the United States means to other countries in the world, the idea that we're attracting the best and the brightest from around the world, the idea that this research money is consequential to not only medicine, but aerospace and national security. Harvard has struggled to make that argument publicly. They have talked to me about it. I've heard them out about this. To your point, there is a larger impact to what's going on here, but Harvard, to the larger issue, has got a multi-front legal and public relations fight with an administration that seems willing to pretty much do anything. If what they did yesterday, the Department of Homeland Security put out a statement that said to the foreign students of Harvard, if you are here, you can either transfer or leave the country. So let's say this restraining order happens today. If you're an international student at Harvard, do you say, oh, okay, like I'm cool to go in the fall? Or you're like, hold on a second. Like, am I going to wait every other week to see if a restraining order is in place or if a judge has overturned it?
Yeah, let me play what some students from Harvard have had to say about this.
It's a mixture of shock, then to kind of just devastation, frustration, and then uncertainty, anxiety. It's a combination of all of those feelings.
A lot of the conversations that currently sort of happen in the hallways, in between experiments, in between classes, are where a lot of meaningful progress can get done. And if you sort of remove a lot of the people that are having those conversations, it becomes a lot harder for ideas to spread.
So, Charles, I was thinking as I was listening to some of those students and some of the others who I've heard who have said things.
People at Harvard, students, teachers, alumni, just people that have nothing to do with that university, but have things to do with human decency, are fundamentally opposing Trump here. And he's already seen some legal defeats. Now, of course, this isn't the last word. We have to ultimately see what happens. This might not go all the way to the Supreme Court, but of course, it's going to be go up the appeals chain in the court system. But Donald is clearly misusing his power, because this is a direct targeting of one institution. Now, I don't know where the president's power starts and begins with regard to international students. Technically, things like visas for students and stuff would be under federal jurisdiction, but I don't know if the president can unilaterally do this. But the thing is, Trump isn't, via Congress, going to Congress and saying, I want you to pass a bill banning international students, or limiting how many people can be international students, and we're going to cut it 50% of what it is right now. And we're going to do that to all schools. What Trump is doing is, via executive order, effectively banning one particular school from admitting international students, basically because that school stood up to him. That they didn't bend the knee, at least not fully, like some other universities have or appear to be doing. And as a result, they're getting punished. Right? We've seen other things too, threatening their tax status and threatening lawsuits and investigations and whatnot. This shows, guys, that people are going to stand up to him, and that he's not going to have a free rein, and that students and teachers do not respect him.